just 372 succeeded. The MBBS stream recorded a pass rate of 38.7%, while 42.85% of dental candidates cleared the exam.
यहाँभन्दा बढी सेवा सुविधा र यहाँभन्दा बढी सामाजिक सुरक्षा पाइसकेपछि चिकित्सक मात्रै होइन सबै चाहिँ भन्नाले त्यसैको बना खोजीमा बाहिर जान्छ। त्यसै क्रममा चिकित्सकहरू पनि गइरहनु भएको छ। तर त्यसमा जो भर्खर ग्रेजुएट हुनुभएको हुन्छ, ग्रेजुएट भएको लगभग 5-7 वर्षमा म्याक्सिमम चाहिँ भन्नाले विदेश जाने, विदेश पलायन हुने वा चाहिँ भन्नाले माइग्रेसन हुने सम्भावना चाहिँ बढी छ।
But the overall results have nonetheless intensified debate over the quality of medical education and the future prospects of young health professionals in Nepal. Alongside licensing challenges, Nepal Medical Council data on the issuance of certificates of good standing, a mandatory document for foreign employment, higher education, or professional training, clearly shows a steady increase in the migration of medical professionals. Over the past 6 fiscal years, the number of certificates issued has more than doubled, rising from 1,087 in 2020 to a record of 2,681 in 2025. Council officials estimate that more than 70% of certificate holders eventually move abroad on a long-term basis.
People who are graduated in medicine or nursing or even the health professionals, they have very little opportunity to provide services in the country. That's why to source the opportunity, this is a very usual thing to look for the further development of their own career, for the further study and get the job international also. That's why the service is required very much in Nepal. The people are not getting service. The production of the human resources are almost enough to provide the services. So the government sectors, non-government sectors and other sectors also, they have to create the post to provide services.
According to the NMC records, the United Kingdom remains the leading destination for Nepali doctors, while more than 500 certificates issued for the UK in recent years. The United States has also seen a sharp surge, peaking at 843 certificates in 2023. Health sector officials say the trend reflects deep-rooted dissatisfaction within the domestic healthcare system. Young doctors echo similar concerns, citing low pay, delayed salaries, and lack of workplace security.
हामीले रात दिन अहोरात्र खटेर हामीले बिरामीको सेवाहरू गर्छौं। अब त्यही अनुसारको हामीलाई प्रोत्साहन स्वरूप दिएको पारिश्रमिकहरूले चाहिँ हाम्रो जीविकोपार्जन नै गर्दैन। अब फीकै कुरा गर्ने हो भने एमबीबीएस मा 40 देखि 45 लाख खर्च गरेर हामी पढ्न आउँछौं। अब 5.5 वर्ष खर्च हाम्रो लाइफको खर्च गरिसकेपछि हामीलाई दिने पारिश्रमिक भनेको अब केउकै कुरा गर्ने हो भने 10 देखि 12 हजार छ। अब त्यो स्यालेरीले हाम्रो जीवनको जीविकोपार्जन नै गर्न सक्दैन। अब उमेर अनुसार आउने हाम्रो पारिवारिक जिम्मेवारी पनि हुन्छ। अब त्यस कारणले गर्दा कस्तो अवस्था आइसकेको छ भने चाहिँ हाम्रो मानसिक स्वास्थ्यमै असर पर्छ कि जस्तो पनि कुरा आइसकेको अवस्था चाहिँ त्यस्तो छ।
The continued outflow of trained doctors and nurses poses serious long-term risk to Nepal's public health system, particularly in public hospitals and rural areas. That's the perspective for this week. We will be back next week with major highlights of the week. Thank you for watching NTV World.
What is the power of music that political narratives don't?
The real music comes between the notes. It's the silence. I don't think you can change the country. It's not a. I think it's good to start with your own home. You know, your own room? Can you do some changes in your own room? So I'm working in my own room.
Fixing your internet. Internet.
So you can play the same note. For example, just give you a little bit of an example, Sudan, of this. Sounds very Nepali.
Right.
And it could be anywhere on the mountain. But if I did,
That's the signature of
That's,
Manoj Newana. Let's talk about the Grammy moment. What was it like?
oh my God. Well, you know, it was 2020. It was blessings. I've been very blessed to also to collaborate with some Westerner musicians. One of them was Deva Pramal and Miten. They were, you know, Miten and Deva, they were very inspired by Eastern philosophy. Also, actually, they were very inspired by Osho's world. And through that, they got to learn a lot about the mantras and the beauty of what our music can bring to the people. And I went to Los Angeles to be there with 10,000 people in the Staple Arena. It was amazing. I wore a Nepali dress and put instead of kukri, I put my bansuri.
Wow.
It was proudly. I felt like, oh, great, thank you.
dancing in the beats of Khaijari. These tireless young feet will not stop until the next morning. As every dawn brings along a dusk, and a hello has to end in a farewell note, it was time for us to say goodbye to Ramkot. The beat of the Madal and Khaijari constantly tried to hold us back even until we reached the faraway trails. It was hard to say goodbye when our heart wanted to stay, but then we had to move on.
All 4 security agencies of Nepal to be deployed under Nepal Army's leadership from tomorrow for March 5 parliamentary elections. Prime Minister Sushila Karki says March 5 election in mountainous districts could be held in second phase if weather prevents voting. Nepal government decides to cut outpatient insurance coverage by 75%, lower and middle income population to be most affected. Unusually heavy snow in Japan claims 30 lives in the past 2 weeks. Troops deployed to help residents in heaviest hit regions. US President Donald Trump agrees to slash US tariffs on Indian goods to 18% from 50% in exchange for India lowering trade barriers. And Nepal defeats UAE by 7 wickets in the first warm-up match for ICC Men's T20 World Cup in Chennai. Good evening, I am April Singh Lama. This is NTV World News Hour coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours Nepal time. Now the news in details. Nepal has put in place an integrated security plan to ensure a clean, free, fair and fear-free House of Representatives election scheduled for March 5. Starting tomorrow, all 4 security agencies, the Nepal Army, Nepal Police, Armed Police Force and National Investigation Department will be deployed in coordination under the Nepal Army's leadership. Election police will also be mobilized. Nepal Police and Election Police will handle inner security at polling stations. The Armed Police Force will manage the second security layer and the Nepal Army will be responsible for the outer security perimeter. The Nepal Army will be deployed across all 165 constituencies with security bases and joint patrols established as needed to maintain peace and order during the election period. Prime Minister Sushila Karki has said the election to the House of Representatives could be held in the second phase in the mountainous districts in case the weather is not favorable on March 5. Prime Minister Karki said this while talking to journalists after attending the concluding ceremony of the National Cadet Corps NCC training held at the Nepali Army's NCC Mid-Region Training School at Hatikhor, Kawasoti Municipality 1 today.
सरकारले जसरी पनि गराउँछ निर्वाचन कहीँ रोकियो ओर्यो भने फेरि दोबारा अर्को पटकलाई अर्को उसमा गराउँछ। अब हामी थोरै ठाउँ भएकोमा त साधनको प्रयोग पनि हुन सक्छ, साधनको प्रयोग गरेर पनि मान्छेलाई उसारेर पनि गराउँछ। अब त्यहाँ हुनै नसक्ने अवस्था हो भने त्यही रूपबाट विचार हुन्छ, तर निर्वाचन चाहिँ हुन्छ जसरी पनि हुन्छ, किनभने इमर्जेन्सी जस्तो भयो नि त, यो कुनै सोचेको बेलाको त होइन। कसलाई थाहा थियो कि 23 को घटना घट्छ, 24 को घटना घट्छ अनि यत्रो दहशत हुन्छ भन्ने त कसलाई थाहा थियो।
More on how election fervor is gripping the nation, along with what the candidates are promising to the public and what the voters expect from them, on our issue of the day later. Nepal's latest universal health coverage service coverage index stands at 53.7, showing that nearly half of essential health services remain undercovered and access to care is still fragile. Amid the situation, the government has reduced the outpatient service limit under the National Health Insurance Program, a move that has sparked public dissatisfaction. Effective from February 13, the annual OPD coverage has been cut from 100,000 Nepali rupees to just 25,000 rupees, with insurance now covering mainly hospital admissions, lab tests and emergency treatment. Beneficiaries say this change will hit middle and low-income citizens the hardest, while wealthier groups may still manage treatment costs. According to the Health Insurance Board, 71% of insurance spending previously went to OPD services, but under the new system, only 25% will be allocated to outpatient care. More on this on our cover story later in the bulletin. Now, the unusually heavy snow in Japan has been blamed for the death of 30 people in the past 2 weeks, including a 91-year-old woman found under a 3-meter pile outside her home. The central government has deployed troops to help residents in Aomori, the heaviest hit region, where as much as 4.5 meters of snow remains on the ground in remote areas. Prime Minister Sanaya Takaichi held a special cabinet-level meeting on Tuesday morning to instruct ministers to do all they can to prevent deaths and accidents. A powerful cold air mass has resulted in heavy snow along the Sea of Japan coast in recent weeks, with some areas seeing more than double the usual volumes. United States President Donald Trump has agreed to slash U.S. tariffs on Indian goods to 18% from 50% in exchange for India lowering trade barriers, as well as stopping its purchase of Russian oil and buying oil instead from the U.S. and potentially Venezuela. India paid the highest tariffs in the world after Trump raised import duties on Indian goods from 25% to 50% in August last year, saying Delhi's purchase of discounted Russian oil was helping fund Moscow's war effort in Ukraine. After his call with India's Prime Minister on Monday, Trump claimed Narendra Modi had agreed to stop buying Russian oil and buy much more from the United States and potentially Venezuela. The patch-up comes after Trump's trade war soured carefully cultivated relations between Washington and Delhi, with exports from India to the U.S. falling sharply across key job-creating sectors such as textiles, seafood and jewelry. Last week, India and the EU announced a trade deal eliminating tariff on 80 to 90% of goods. Now, Nepal defeated UAE by 7 wickets with 18 balls to spare in the first of its T20 World Cup warm-up matches in Chennai. Batting first, the UAE posted 145 for 6 in 20 overs. Aryan Sharma scored a quick 25, while Harshit Kaushik added 35 and Shoaib Khan remained unbeaten on 38 to give the UAE a fighting total. For Nepal, Karan Casey and Sandeep Lamichhane picked up 2 wickets each, keeping the scoring in check. In reply, Nepal made the chase look easy. Arif Sheikh played a classy knock, finishing unbeaten on 61 of 37 balls, while Dipender Singh Airi provided the finishing touch with 50 not out from 31 deliveries. Nepal reached 148 for 3 in just 17 overs, sealing a comfortable win and gaining valuable momentum ahead of the T20 World Cup. With March 5 approaching, election campaigning is in full swing across the country. One of the most closely watched races among the 165 constituency is in Rukum East, where Nepali Communist Party coordinator Pushpa Kamal Dahal, former commander of the decade-long armed conflict, faces Sandeep Pun, who tragically lost both parents during that conflict. That's our issue of the day after this break. You're watching NTV World News Hour. Time for issue of the day. Election canvassing is at war footing across the country as March 5 approaches. One of the interesting contests of the 165 constituencies is going to be seen in Rukum East, where coordinator of Nepali Communist Party, Pushpa Kamal Dahal, the commander of the 10-year-old armed conflict, is up against Sandeep Pun, who lost both his parents in the same conflict. We'll look at the single constituency of Rukum East, where 11 candidates are in the fray.
Drawing a lot of attention in the build-up to the March 5 election, as one of the 3 former prime ministers in the fray is contesting here. The district has 34,772 voters, of which around 80% are from Magar community. Considered the epicenter of the Maoist rebellion that started decades ago, the district has the commander of the rebellion, Pushpa Kamal Dahal, contesting the election. Of the 11 candidates, including 2 women, the election is being seen as rivalry between Dahal and a young Pragatishil Loktantrik Party candidate, Sandeep Pun. Pun, a former Maoist cadre himself, lost both his parents in the People's War. Dahal has a record of changing his constituencies every election since 2004 Constituent Assembly polls from Rolpa 2 to Rukum East. Though the contest between a seasoned leader and a youth might have attracted headlines, there are other equally impactful candidates as well. Nepali Congress leader Kusum Devi Thapa is one of the 2 women candidates in the race. According to Thapa, education, health, employment, road construction and promotion of local production are also in the priority of Rukum East. Leela Mani Gautam, who was elected as a Central Committee member representing youths below 40 years of age in the last General Convention of the CP and UML, says the candidacy is for responsible political culture. Jyoti Rokamagar of the Mongol National Organization, Lakhan Kumar Thapa of the Rashtriya Swatantra Party, Roshan Shah of Rashtriya Prajatantra Party, Chandra Prasad Shahi of Rashtriya Jana Morcha, Dharma Kumar Budha of National Republic Nepal, Juddha Bahadur Budha Magar of Nepal Communist Party Maoist, and Shir Bahadur Budha of the Janta Samajwadi Party are contesting in the constituency. Rukum, which was described as the headquarters during the Maoist Armed People's War, has been continuously conquered by then Maoist since 2nd Constituent Assembly election in 2008. The district has traditionally favored former CP and Maoist Centre candidates in almost all elections since the party came to the peace process.
While election canvassing is ongoing across 165 constituencies in Nepal for March 5 House of Representatives election, the ground reality of common people has remained the same for ages. For the Musahar community in Mohotari, for example, who have been battling for survival every season, election has failed to touch. Unfulfilled promises every year has left them against floods, droughts and insecurity with each passing year. Rojina Rai with our local correspondent Sandeep Mandal explained more on this matter.
As Nepal moves closer to the House of Representatives, its OR elections, frustration is growing among marginalized communities who feel abandoned. Jai Kumari Sada, a local resident from the highly marginalized Musahar community in Nepal, says she is not voting just for promises this time. Her sentiment is echoed most of the members of her community who blame the leaders of remembering only during election. For years, the Musahar community living along the banks of Bighi River in Mohottari has been forced to endure the same problem caused by floods and drought. The 72 households remain exposed to annual flooding and river erosion during the monsoon, while also suffering from acute shortages of safe drinking water during summertime. Despite Nepal's federal system of governance, residents say their concerns have been consistently ignored by the government. During every election cycle, political leaders visit the settlement seeking votes and pledging to construct embankments along the Bighi River. Once the election is over, those commitments are forgotten. The absence of scientific river management measures to control swollen rivers during the monsoon has trapped the Musahar community in poverty and constant insecurity. Although promises to protect the settlement from flooding and erosion through embankment construction are repeated during every election, the situation remains unchanged. The Bighi River, which flows through the Kanchanban area of Mohottari, causes widespread damages each monsoon season, affecting dozens of locals there. Flooding and river erosion frequently displace families, making effective river management one of the region's most urgent needs. The Musahar community blames the government and leaders of not being serious to resolve these long-standing problems. As the wind of change grips the country this election, people like the Musahars of Mohottari are unlikely to be swayed by past practices. Rojina Rai with local correspondent Sanjeev Mandal reporting for NTV World.
In this context today, in our Public Pulse segment, we have asked the members of Musahar community what problems do they want to share with election candidates. Let's take a look.
धेरै दुःखको कुरो हो वास्तवमा जतिखेर असार श्रावण भादोको महिनातिर पानीले नै भरिएको रहिरहन्छ त्यसैकारण यो निवेदन छ कि यसलाई यस्तो तटबन्ध गरिदिनु कि कम्तीमा यो पुल्ला र तटबन्ध बस्ती पनि बाँचोस् र पानीको निकास पनि बगोस्
खार साउन में जते डर लगैया जते पानी अब है जे हमरा आड़ के रह केल में तराई के में रह चिराइत बिराइत में की हमरा आड़ के बहुत मुश्किल लगे है तते बात के मुश्किल लगे है जे हमरा आड़ जब केना के जिंदगी बीतबै छी त हमरा आड़ जाने छी की
ये बहुत हम सब तकलीफ तराई में रहै छी ई सड़क जे बनि दे त ई टोलो दहा लगे छै या बढ़िया से ई पुला नहीं बनबे है आ सब साल जते मेयर जे भेलै जहिया से मेयर चालू भेलै तहिया से जते मेयर होय से सब साल भरबे है 2 बाजी 3 बाजी का आ चमे बाजी तू जहिया बाढ़ आयल तहिया तू देल
नेताजी सब वोट लले है हमरा और सब ठेक लेला वोट चल गेल आ वोट जे जीत जाए त कहियो घूम के पलट के नेबे जनता मर जाओ जी जाओ से सब पलट के नहीं अबे तटबंध कर दियो हमरा सब के सुख विलास हुए नेताजी सब ठेक ले है वोट ल लिया कहियो पलट के नहीं अबे घूम के
समस्या बहुत विकट है अपने के ठाम जे हमरा सब के बाढ़ पीड़ित जे अबे त अय नेता सब तो बहुत एले बहुत गेले बहुत अपना हिसाब से जे है से अहाँ के बहस केल के हम ई करबे हमहू करबे तटबंध करबे तटबंधो जे है से अपने के नहीं भ सकले रह गेले अब फिर चुनाव एले फिर चुनाव में जे है से वह वार्ता वह सब वह कहानी जे है से
Nepal's health insurance recipients are experiencing significant reductions in outpatients benefits, with the government slashing the OPD limit by 75%. While concerns grow over the program's future, the decision is viewed as an attempt to partially ease financial pressure. A special look on the changes made in the insurance scheme in our cover story after this break. You're watching NTV World. Welcome back. Nepal's health insurance beneficiaries are facing major cuts to outpatient coverage as the government reduces the OPD limit by 75%. Amid fears that the entire health insurance program is at risk, the move has been seen as a way to somewhat ease the financial burden.
Nepal's latest score in universal health coverage, Service Coverage Index, is 53.7. The figures show nearly half of essential services remain undercovered, highlighting challenges in access and financial protection. The UHC Service Coverage Index measures access to essential health services on a scale of 0 to 100. In such a scenario of an already fragile health service system, the government of Nepal significantly reduced the limit for OPD outpatient services under the health insurance program. Nepali public has expressed dissatisfaction towards this move. This new insurance scheme, effective from February 13, has directly affected middle and low-income citizens, according to the beneficiaries. Previously, health insurance beneficiaries received up to 100,000 rupees per year for treatment. Under the new scheme, the OPD service limit has been reduced to 25,000 rupees. From February 13, coverage will only be available for hospital admission, lab tests, and emergency treatment. While the wealthier class may still afford medications and treatments, the middle and lower classes are expected to be more heavily affected, according to public opinion.
3500 तिरेर हामी 1 लाख सम्मको बिमा चेकअप गराउन सकिन्थ्यौ नि हस्पिटलमा गएर अहिले त्यो त हाम्रो 25000 मा झार्यो त्यो त सबभन्दा पहिला हामी यसले के गर्न खोजे थाहै लागेन हामीलाई अब एक आफै भन्छ कि सेवा लिनुस् हामी यति तिरेर सेवा दिन्छौं कुनै बेला यसले आफै सेवा घटाउन थाल्छ मान्छेको अब मनमा त बिमा प्रति नजर नकारात्मक सोच आयो पहिला
नहुनेलाई त असर गर्यो नि त हैन नहुनेलाई असर गर्यो हुनेलाई त जे गरे नि हुन्छ नहुने गरिबहरुलाई यस्तो मान्छेलाई असर पर्यो.
According to Health Insurance Board, 71% of insurance expenses are spent on OPD services. Under the new arrangement, 25% of the expenses will go to outpatient services and 75% to other services. Only 3.03 billion rupees is collected annually as premiums from the insured, while the expenses exceed 24 billion rupees. This has increased the financial burden, according to the Insurance Board.
बिमाले त धेरै जनालाई बिमा गर्छ एक जना दुई जनालाई सर्भिस दिदा त्यो जोखिमको पुल गर्छ सबैको जोखिम जोड्छ धेरै जना स्वस्थ हुन्छन् एक दुई जना बिरामी हुँदा त्यो खर्चले दान्छ भन्ने हो तर अहिले हाम्रो के भयो बिमा गर्छौं 100 जनालाई 92 जनाले सेवा लिनुहुन्छ जसले गर्दा हाम्रो प्रिमियमले धान्न नसकेको हो कि फेरि पनि भन्छु प्रिमियम 4 अर्ब पनि उठ्दैन खर्च चाहिँ महिनाको 2 अर्ब भन्दा ज्यादा उठ्छ त्यसैले राज्यले यसलाई कसरी दिगो बनाउने भन्ने हिसाबले विभिन्न स्टेपहरु लिनुपर्ने अवस्था छ.
The government has also limited the OPD service coverage under the current fiscal year's allocation of 11 billion rupees after settling the old outstanding insurance dues. The government still owes 12 billion rupees to 510 hospitals since last April. The board says with 6.9 million beneficiaries, the program collects low premiums but incurs high expenses, making it difficult to sustain financially.
While the Insurance Board has decided to change the scheme, let's look at what the program looked like previously in this story.
The initiatives to develop the National Health Insurance Program date back to 1976, when the first health insurance scheme was introduced at Patan Hospital in Lalitpur district. In 2013, the social health insurance policy was introduced. During 2015-16, the National Health Insurance Program was piloted in 3 districts, Kailali, Baglung, and Ilam. The Social Health Insurance Program was launched in 2016. In 2017, the government enacted the Health Insurance Act, and the Health Insurance Board came into existence to oversee the program. The National Health Insurance Program was officially launched the same year. The program aims to provide quality healthcare services and protect households from financial hardship. Within less than a decade of its inception, NHIP has extended coverage to over 7 million individuals, within Nepal's total population of 30 million. The NHIP receives financial contributions from both the government and insured members in the form of insurance premiums, which must be renewed annually. The current annual premium is 3,500 Nepali rupees, that is $26.40 per family, with an additional 700 Nepali rupees, that is $5.30 for each insured member beyond 5 family members. The government provides subsidies for certain target groups and households with HIV/AIDS patients receiving a full subsidy. Members of NHIP are entitled to free care at impaneled health facilities up to a maximum of 100,000 Nepali rupees, that is $754 per family annually.
President Ramchandra Paudel met Japanese Emperor Naruhito at the Imperial Palace in Tokyo during his 4-day visit to Japan. President Paudel praised Japan's role as a trusted and reliable development partner in Nepal's social and economic development. He said the long-standing relationship between the two countries, based on history, culture, and mutual cooperation, has grown closer since the establishment of diplomatic ties. Emperor Naruhito recalled his 1986 visit to Nepal. During the visit, President Paudel addressed a special program marking the 70th anniversary of Nepal-Japan diplomatic relations, visited the Nepali embassy in Japan, and is scheduled to return home after completing his visit. During his official visit to Japan, President Ramchandra Paudel said that relations between Nepal and Japan have grown closer and stronger since the establishment of diplomatic ties, and Nepal is keen to work closely with Japanese leadership to further strengthen cooperation. In a courtesy meeting with Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, President Paudel highlighted Japan's role as a key development partner and said there is strong potential to expand bilateral trade and attract Japanese investment in Nepal's priority development sectors. Prime Minister Takaichi said Nepal's stability is important for Japan, and the region expressed Japan's wish for the successful House of Representatives election on March 5 and announced that Japan would send election observers. She also reaffirmed continued support to Nepal in information technology and democracy. President Paudel is in Japan with First Lady Sabita Paudel to attend events marking the 70th anniversary of Nepal-Japan diplomatic relations and was accorded a Guard of Honor by the Japanese government. The government has approved the withdrawal of the social media bill from the federal parliament. The decision was taken at today's cabinet meeting, which endorsed withdrawing the bill related to the Operation Use and Regulation of Social Media 2081. The bill has been introduced by the Minister for Communications and Information Technology, Prithvi Subba Gurung, and was registered in the National Assembly on 29 January 2025, but failed to progress due to controversy.
सामाजिक सञ्जालको सञ्चालन, प्रयोग तथा नियमन गर्ने सम्बन्धमा व्यवस्था गर्न बनेको विधेयक 2081 संघीय संसदबाट फिर्ता लिन स्वीकृति प्रदान गर्ने निर्णय गरियो। निर्माणाधीन संसद भवन परिसरमा जेनजी आन्दोलनका शहीदहरूको शालिग निर्माण गर्ने गरी सिंहदरबार परिसरको गुरु योजनाको संशोधन गर्न स्वीकृति दिने निर्णय गरियो।
Also approved an amendment to the Singadarbar Master Plan to allow the construction of statues of martyrs of the Zenzi movement within the under-construction parliamentary building complex. Now, Nepal Rashtra Bank reports declining inflation with price growth below 5%. Yet for many households, frequent hikes in food prices make that relief feel out of reach. Let's take a look.
Nepal's central bank says inflation is easing, but for ordinary citizens, the cost of living tells a very different story. According to the latest data from Nepal Rashtra Bank, year-on-year inflation currently stands at 4.79%, down from 5.41% during the same period last year. The bank also reports that average inflation for the first 6 months of the current fiscal year is just 1.7%, suggesting price stability in the broader economy. Yet on the ground, consumers say prices are anything but stable.
घटेको जस्तो त लाग्दैन मलाई महँगै छ सबै सामानहरु झन् पहिलाको भन्दा झन् बढिराखेको जस्तो लाग्छ.
Traders across the country acknowledge that the cost of daily essentials including cooking oil, rice, lentils and pulses has risen by 5 to 10% in recent months. Shoppers complain that official inflation figures rarely match what they experience at local markets, fueling skepticism towards government data. Economists argue that the disconnect stems from how inflation is measured. While the central bank relies on aggregated data and a standardized consumer price index, households are more affected by the prices of essential goods they purchase daily. Price variation between urban and rural areas further complicate the picture, making nationwide average less reflective of individual experiences.
बढेको वा घटेको मूल्य किन बजारसँग म्याच खाँदैन भन्ने प्रथम चाहिँ त्यो क्याल्कुलेसन गर्ने त्यसलाई पत्ता लगाउने मेथड छ. त्यो वस्तुहरुको जुन बास्केट छ त्यो बास्केटले हाम्रो यहाँको वस्तुको उपभोक्ताको वस्तुको रियल सिनारियो क्याप्चर नगरेको हो एउटा. अर्को चाहिँ त्यो औसत हो, नेपाल भरिको औसत हो. काठमाडौँमा मूल्य वृद्धि हुँदाखेरि अन्त घटेको हुन सक्ला धेरै जिल्लामा.
Another factor contributing to the gap is timing. The central bank publishes inflation data based on information collected several months earlier, meaning recent price hikes often go unrecorded until later. During this lag, consumers absorb the immediate impact. Experts also point to political uncertainty as a driver of rising prices. With an election atmosphere building, importers are accused of increasing prices preemptively, costs that are passed directly onto the consumers. While Nepal's inflation numbers may suggest economic relief, for many households struggling with rising food prices, the sense of relief remains largely theoretical.
International news coming up next, but before that, a quick recap of headlines. All 4 security agencies of Nepal to be deployed under Nepal Army's leadership from tomorrow for March 5 parliamentary elections. Prime Minister Sushila Karki says March 5 election in mountainous districts could be held in second phase if weather prevents voting. Nepal government decides to cut outpatient insurance coverage by 75%, lower and middle income population to be most affected. Unusually heavy snow in Japan claims 30 lives in the past 2 weeks. Troops deployed to help residents in heaviest heat regions. US President Donald Trump agrees to slash US tariffs on Indian goods to 18% from 50% in exchange for India lowering trade barriers. And Nepal defeats the UAE by 7 wickets in the first warm-up match for ICC Men's T20 World Cup in Chennai. Venezuela's interim president Delcy Rodriguez has appointed veteran diplomat Felix Palencia as Venezuela's diplomatic representative to the United States. This was confirmed by the Republic's Foreign Minister Ivan Gil following a meeting between the Venezuelan leader and the U.S. Charge d'Affaires for the Venezuela Affairs Unit, Laura Dogu, held Monday. The high-level meeting marks the most significant step toward normalizing relations since ties were severed in 2019. Following the closed-door session, Foreign Minister Ivan Gil announced the appointment of veteran diplomat Felix Plasencia as Venezuela's representative to the United States. Plasencia, a former foreign minister and former ambassador to China, is expected to lead a diplomatic mission to Washington in the coming days to begin a thorough review of bilateral cooperation. Now, Spain plans to ban access to social media for children under 16 to protect them from harmful content such as pornography and violence. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said platforms will be required to introduce effective age verification systems, not simple checkboxes. He also announced plans to amend Spanish law to hold tech company executives criminally liable for failing to remove illegal or hateful content. The proposal is part of a package of 5 measures expected to move forward starting next week, though Sanchez's coalition government lacks a parliamentary majority. Spain is joining countries like Australia, France, Portugal, Denmark and Greece in pushing stricter social media regulations, including efforts to expand similar rules across the European Union. After more than 2 decades of shaping Thailand's electoral landscape, the Shinawatra family is facing a critical challenge as Thai voters head to the polls coming Sunday. The election will test whether the Thai party can regain its grip on power amid shifting voter priorities, economic pressures and intensified competition from rival parties. Thai, closely associated with former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra and his family, has long relied on populist policies and strong ruler support to win elections. But concerns are expressed as the party now confronts growing skepticism among younger voters and uncertainty over whether its traditional political formula can deliver another mandate in a rapidly changing political environment. Former U.S. President Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State, have agreed to testify in the congressional investigation into late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. It comes days before a vote on whether to hold the couple in criminal contempt for refusing to appear before the House Oversight Committee after a months-long standoff. Bill Clinton was acquainted with Epstein, who died in prison in 2019, but has denied knowledge of his sex offending and says he cut off contact 2 decades ago. It's unclear when the depositions will take place, but it will be the first time a former U.S. president has testified to a congressional panel since Gerald Ford did so in 1983. A partial U.S. government shutdown entered its 3rd day without resolution as Democrats continued to demand immigration reforms as part of any funding deal to reopen the government. Senate Democrats and Republicans agreed to a package of 5 spending bills on Thursday, but stripped out a 6th bill on full fiscal year funding for the Department of Homeland Security, DHS. The Senate instead approved a 2-week funding for the DHS that gives lawmakers more time to work out disputes over its long-term budget. Now, the package approved by the Senate must now be cleared by the House of Representatives before it is sent to President Donald Trump's desk for signature. The Senate package includes funding for the Defense Department, the Health Department, the Treasury, the federal court system and other agencies until the end of the 2026 fiscal year on 30 September. However, funding for these federal agencies ended at midnight on Saturday, resulting in a partial shutdown as the House has yet to approve it. Now, time now for business updates, but after this short break.
A partial U.S. government shutdown entered its third day without resolution as Democrats continue to demand immigration reforms as part of any funding deal to reopen the government. Senate Democrats and Republicans agreed to a package of 5 spending bills on Thursday, but stripped out a 6th bill on a full fiscal year funding for the Department of Homeland Security DHS. The Senate instead approved a 2-week funding for the DHS that gives lawmakers more time to work out disputes over its long-term budget. The package approved by the Senate must now be cleared by the House of Representatives before it is sent to President Donald Trump's desk for signature. The Senate package includes funding for the Defense Department, the Health Department, the Treasury, the federal court system, and other agencies until the end of 2026 fiscal year on 30 of September. But funding for these federal agencies ended at midnight on Saturday, resulting in a partial shutdown as the House has yet to approve it. French government adopted 2026 budget after surviving 2 confidence votes on Monday. Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu has faced a string of no-confidence votes in recent weeks as he pushed the first sections of the 2026 state budget through Parliament without a vote. On Tuesday, Lecornu defended his decision, touting what he called a breakthrough budget that would boost defense spending by 6.5 billion euros and urging a long-term view. The 2026 budget is expected to remain a flashpoint in Parliament, with further no-confidence votes possible as additional sections of the legislation are debated. The government's reliance on constitutional tools to bypass votes is set to underscore its fragile position in a divided legislature and raises questions about its ability to push through future reforms. France's public finances remain under close scrutiny from investors and European partners as the government seeks to balance higher defense spending with efforts to control deficits and reassure markets. Japan's Nintendo on Tuesday maintained its annual operating profit forecast of $2.4 billion, an increase of nearly a third of the previous financial year. The Super Mario Maker launched its Switch 2 gaming device in mid-2025 with robust early sales, but investors are debating whether that momentum can be maintained. The Kyoto-based gaming company also maintained its annual sales forecast for the Switch 2 of 19 million units. Nintendo, whose Switch 2 follows the wildly popular Switch, has had to navigate supply chain disruptions caused by US President Donald Trump's trade war. Hardware manufacturers are also now grappling with sharply rising prices for memory chips amid booming investment in artificial intelligence.
Time for sports update. In the ongoing SAF Under-19 Women's Championship in Pokhara, Nepal will face Bangladesh in their final group match tomorrow. This match will be decisive for Nepal in their bid to reach the final. The game will kick off at 3 p.m. at the Pokhara International Football Stadium. Nepal, with 3 points from 2 matches, must secure a win against Bangladesh to qualify for the final. The host team defeated Bhutan 2-1 in their previous match, while Nepal had earlier lost 1-0 to India in their opening game. Bangladesh, currently at the top of the group with 6 points from 2 matches, have already qualified for the final. Jaulakhel Youth Club secured their second win in the National League by defeating Bara's Janjagriti Youth Club 4-0 at the Anfa complex in Sabdobato. Goals for Jaulakhel were scored by Haris Raj Bhatt, Boubakar Sisi, Yuvraj Dahal and Dharmendra Kuwar, with the team leading 3-0 at half-time. After 5 matches, Jaulakhel has 2 wins and 3 losses, totaling 6 points, moving them to 8th place. Nav Janjagriti suffered their 5th consecutive loss and remain at the bottom without any points. In other matches today, top division club New Road team NRT and departmental team APF club played to a goalless draw, marking the first draw for both teams this season. Both now have 13 points, with APF retaining the top spot due to goal difference and NRT in second. 2 matches have been scheduled for tomorrow. Jitlang FC will take on Kaveri Bihar, followed by the match between Planning Boys United and Friends Club. The South Asian Football Federation SAF has released the match schedule for the SAF Under-20 Championship, which will be held in the Maldives. For the championship, the All Nepal Football Association ANFA has selected 80 players in the first phase. The participating teams in the tournament, which will take place from March 23 to April 4, have been divided into 2 groups. Nepal has been placed in Group A along with the host Maldives, Bhutan and Sri Lanka. Group B consists of the defending champion India, Bangladesh and Pakistan. Nepal will face Bhutan in its opening match. Nepal will play its second match against Sri Lanka on March 25 and will face the Maldives in the final group stage match on March 27. After a single round-robin league, the top 2 teams from each group will advance to the semi-finals. Nepal is currently under the influence of a weak western low-pressure system, which may bring snowfall to some Himalayan regions, but only a low chance of rain, according to the Department of Hydrology and Meteorology. Some areas in Bagmati and Koshi provinces may also see snowfall, but meteorologists say no new strong weather system is forming, so the weather is expected to gradually clear, skies will open and temperatures will slowly rise in the coming days. Let's look at the weather in more details, first from across Nepal and then the world. We're almost at the end of the bulletin, but before we wrap up, let's have a look at the top stories once again. All 4 security agencies of Nepal to be deployed under Nepal Army's leadership from tomorrow for March 5 parliamentary elections. Prime Minister Sushila Karki says March 5 election in mountainous districts could be held in second phase if weather prevents voting. Nepal government decides to cut outpatients insurance coverage by 75%, lower and middle income population to be most affected. Unusually heavy snow in Japan claims 30 lives in the past 2 weeks. Troops deployed to help residents in heaviest hit regions. US President Donald Trump agrees to slash US tariffs on Indian goods to 18% from 50% in exchange for India lowering trade barriers. And Nepal defeats the UAE by 7 wickets in the first warm-up match for ICC Men's T20 World Cup in Chennai. That is all for the moment. Do join us through our social media and visit us at www.nepaltelevision.com for more information and news. I am Irpulagi Simulama and thank you for staying with us. Good night.
Political narratives
comes between the notes. It's the silence. I don't think you can change the country. It's not a. I think it's good to start with your own home, you know, your own room. Can you do some changes in your own room? So I'm working in my own room.
Fixing your internet.
So you can play the same note. For example, just give you a little bit of an example, Sudan, of this. Sounds very Nepali.
Right.
And it could be anywhere on the mountain. But if I did.
That's the signature of Manus Newana. Let's talk about the Grammy moment. What was it like?
Oh my God. Well, you know, it was 2020. It was blessings. I've been very blessed to also to collaborate with some Westerner musicians, and one of them was Deva Pramal and Miten. They were, you know, Miten and Deva. They were very inspired by Eastern philosophy. Also, actually, they were very inspired by Osho's world, and through that they got to learn a lot about the mantras and the beauty of what our music can bring to the people. And I went to Los Angeles to be there with 10,000 people in the Staple Arena. It was amazing. I wore a Nepali dress and put instead of kukri, I put my bansuri.
Wow.
It was proudly. I felt like, oh great, thank you.